And this is how, we do a piece of work around theory of change as the sort of anchor piece around this. How many people are familiar with theory of change people have heard of it? Yeah. So the initial model Kellogg's Foundation did in the 70s was inputs, activities, outputs, outcomes. So we've sort of done a homage to that, as that's traditionally how people have thought. Generally then at the end, impacts come into the space and people are looking at the longer term changes. For us, having done several hundred theory of change pieces of work now at Think Impact, we think that actually most of the work needs to be done here. And you don't just start with the money you've got, you start with the intended change that you want to create. And that's influenced by the context you operate in, the stakeholders, the evidence and data around what you're doing, and your belief. And that last one's important because we often operate out of motivation and belief. And what do you do when evidence comes along and contradicts your belief? And so really it's what's that? Yes, I've seen a lot of people who believe harder. And so again, it's just working in that space of like, well, actually the evidence is telling us something different. And so what's the issue you're working in? And really that then drives how you should think about this. We're about to change this. Literally this will be about the last time this slide's shown. And because we're about to introduce at the end a different way of framing the impact piece. So it'll actually go in like that, so that's outcomes. And we're taking the notion a stage further in terms of going almost like when you're communicating your impact, your theory of change then becomes your story of the change you want to create. And if you think of it like a prism, and I'm not going to pretend to have any geological understanding here now, but a prism, white light goes in, and then it's diffuse at the end, and it comes out and it can be seen in different ways. And that's actually how we think your story of change will go through, almost like a prism in terms of the impact. And when it comes out, you actually communicate it in different ways according to the different audiences that you're talking to. And so a lot of our work at the moment is working with organizations around how do they communicate their impact to the different audiences they've got. And so if you think back to my story earlier on about fourth sector when I was the chief exec, at this point, at the top of the prism here, my dad was a taxi driver, so I speak to taxi drivers. So I remember getting taxi drivers and people would be like, what do you do, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, run businesses to create jobs for people that are long-term unemployed. So you've got a really very short message as to what you do here. The change that's created is people have jobs that wouldn't have had jobs before. And you don't need to get beyond that because that's the conversation you might have with the person in the street. At the bottom of that pyramid or prism, if I'm in a conversation with government, then that's where it's like, this was how we did our social return on investment analysis. This is what we found out about it. This were the results. This is how we factored in dead weight. If I said that to a taxi driver, wouldn't get anywhere. So it's that audience segmentation and the prism, but what's coming into it is the same story. And so we're doing a lot of work with organizations around that and thinking about that, and so about to change this diagram.